are about to attempt to erase their voices. And we will fight it, John, as you know, to the top here. May even very well go to the U.S. Supreme Court, believe it or not, this case.
Well, they're interfering with a congressional seat, which is federal.
It is federal, and they sued under, what's interesting is they sued under a state law that doesn't even apply to congressional or legislative seats. It's so ludicrous.
And the state attorney general didn't even back this play.
Yeah, so these, just to give people a refresher here, I have never run for re-election where we have not had a legal battle over my map. And this is my third re-election, the third time we're fighting over the district maps. The first time we won in court, and it went to an independent special master who drew the lines fairly all across the state of New York. The second time we had a legal fight, Democrats won in Albany, Kathy Hochul, and they had an opportunity to draw the lines, and they signed the current maps into law. Now, this Washington law firm comes in representing Democrats, and they're suing, making a frivolous claim, and the governor and the attorney general won't defend the maps that they signed into law. You've never heard of that before, where the attorney general does not defend a law of the state of New York. But in this case, because it's,
Nicole, it's a political fix. Judge, Nicole, this is Judge again. What's the name of the Jeff Perlman?
Yeah, Jeff Perlman. New York State.
Fraud.
Yeah, shame.
Nicole, this is Rudy. And it's a question for the judge. Didn't we have a Supreme Court ruling on this a month and a half ago out of Texas, gerrymandering, and
all right,
able to use?
I'm good.
Use party.
Now we're gonna start driving here.
Situation with this case is very, very simple. Nicole Malatakis, the incumbent.
Remember what I told you? Start typing a whole bunch of gibberish.
By independents.
Start spamming gibberish. Spam again.
Democratic Attorney General. Everybody went along with
spam all kinds of gibberish.
Led this charge to try to fix
you heard?
To deprive the people of New York of fair and balanced district with minority representation. They're alleging under the state law that somehow this is denying minority representation. As Nicole correctly
look at that. I'm right over here by the mall. Look at that. See that? There's the Macy's.
And a woman.
See the Macy's there?
Right. Nicole, keep us posted. This is crazy. Thank you very much, Nicole. We appreciate it, and we're going to stay on it and go out the politics of this as we're seeing all too well. Shame. Getting it out there. Bye. Thank you very much. And you guys, we have some more breaking news for our next guest.
Breaking news, WABC.
And I know he just has a few minutes with us now. Let's go to John Solomon. John, what do you got?
Well, just a little while ago, for the first time in history, a House committee voted to hold a former president and a former Secretary of State in contempt of Congress. President Bill Clinton and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton found to be in contempt by the 42 members.
There goes the Macy's.
The most interesting thing, 9 Democrats crossed over and joined for politics.
There goes the Macy's.
The Clintons, a 34-8 vote sends the contempt measure to the House floor for a vote as early as tomorrow. And on that one, it's expected to pass there as well, which means by Friday morning, there'll be a criminal referral from the United States Congress to Attorney General Van Bondi saying the Clintons should be prosecuted.
Wow.
You really want to know how I feel? Leave the old presidents alone. Wow, that's all right. Leave Trump alone. Leave Clinton alone. Enough is enough, okay?
You'll have Biden. Yeah, you'll have Biden.
I would leave Biden.
Before you go, John, I know you got a minute or two. Give us the stuff
we're going to take the pen and break it.
All right.
Yes.
The auto pen. Right. Yes, for Biden. What about J6? Phillips, and you have interesting stuff on informant.
So if you remember back to Russia collusion and Christopher Steele, the dossier writer, he was paid by the Clintons. He was a foreigner, and he really didn't have much.
All right, so we're out here now.
Him as a confidential source. All that got discredited.
We're going to the goods store.
Said, we're changing the rules. We're not going to do this. We're not going to use politically biased informants anymore. We're going to be very careful to make sure foreign influence doesn't creep into domestic investigations. And of course, like
we're going to the goodie store.
They're not going to be allowed to talk that they're working for the FBI. That's why you're a confidential human source. You're supposed to keep your identity quiet. Well, less than 3 years later, according to documents we obtained yesterday from the FBI, we got an on-record comment from Casper Zell. The FBI under Chris Wray did exactly that again. It did Christopher Steele 2.0. It paid more than $150,000 to an anti-Trump group called the...
Look at those little cameras. They put little cameras in the center there on those light poles.
Making this up. Overseas
they put them there on purpose so they can spy on you.
J6 defendants. And yes,
see those little red lights? Those little red lights on those cameras?
FBI cooperators, they actually...
It's kind of stupid if you ask me, because your eyeball goes right to that little red light.
Seemed to fall apart when this new information came out.
So it doesn't take a genius to realize that those are cameras. But then again, most people are idiots. Most people are stupid idiots. Most are idiots. Most are morons.
Informant relationship. It should not have happened.
So to them,
agents who supervised it have been fired, and Congress will be fully alerted, and he's going to put even more
to them
than the Chris Wray did to make sure this doesn't happen going forward.
That
pretty amazing.
That will be a.
And they're using him to investigate President Trump.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That will be like a dingleberry.
You're doing such a good job.
Look at all this traffic. You see all this traffic here?
Heard before.
This is traffic time. This is why I don't.
Thank you so much.
This is why I don't like to go out.
As always, my friend. Thank you.
At this time of day.
Just the news.
Oh,
look at all this traffic.
What happened to Navarro and Bannon? It happened to a former president and secretary of state?
A fair possibility.
This is not even a highway. These are just the local streets.
Presidents alone.
These are the local streets.
I think we should go after Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, exactly.
For what charges?
We'll find out.
We'll have Trump Trace will defend.
Yeah, exactly. We'll find it. You guys just take a break. Yeah, we have Jim Jordan coming up and a whole bunch more.
Oh, yeah.
You never know who's going to be on the Cats Roundtable. Go around the world in 2 hours every Sunday morning at 8 with the Cats Roundtable, where common sense prevails on 77 WABC.
Yeah, look at that. See that? It's dead. It's dead. The stream is dead. And there goes another camera with that little red light. Oh, yeah. Look at that little camera.
So whether you're retiring to Florida or looking for the Texas lifestyle, Good Greek Van Lines can take you anywhere in the country on time and on budget. Good Greek is your official mover when it comes to best-in-class relocations. For your best move, coast to coast, go to goodgreek.com.
Good Greek, moving is storage.
WABC, Traffic and Transit.
Sponsored by D'Agostino and Associates, the injury firm. Call 1-800-FIGHT-BACK. That's 1-800-248-3222. East on the B2E by McGinnis Humboldt Street, a stalled vehicle blocks the lane, causing a big jam. West on the Stepmount Expressway at Bradley Avenue, a crash blocks the lane. And on the Jersey Turnpike, southbound Eastern Spur at 15W, there's an accident. That's 77 WABC Traffic and Transit. I'm Lisa Ritchie.
D'Agostino and Associates is a legacy firm, and I'm proud to be a part of that legacy. I'm Jenna D'Agostino, and like my father, I fight to get justice for the injured. Call our team first at 1-800-FIGHT-BACK. That's 1-800-248-3222.
Cats and Cosby. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. Commuting home with Cats and Cosby. Now here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
This tonight comes from Jim Joy, and he is the House Judiciary Chairman. And tomorrow, well, he has a subpoena out for Jack Smith, and Jack Smith is being accused of various things about what happened with President Trump and what happened with the FBI, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Mr. Chairman, tell us, what do you plan to ask Jack Smith tomorrow?
Well, a couple things. I think, yeah, we're getting into a hearing. This is something that we always plan.
Oh, they got a Shake Shack here.
When Bob Mueller had his
The problem is with Shake Shack is they take credit cards, and I don't use credit cards. I don't believe in getting a hamburger for on layaway. I pay for my hamburgers cash.
Because he was trying to put the president in prison, for goodness sake. So we deposed him and told his key deputy prior to this public hearing, but that'll take place tomorrow. And I think what's going to come
Although that does smell good, but still, we don't pay with plastic. We pay with cash.
And it started 10 years ago, when they spiraled this campaign with the Comey FBI. Then it was Bob, then it was impeachment 2, Bonnie Phillips, Alvin Bragg, and then sort of culmination of all of it, which is Jack Smith. And what he did, I think that will be clear when we go through some of the things that we've discovered in our investigation and learned about how Jack Smith conducted his special counsel investigation.
Now, is there any specific question you want to ask him to say, a gotcha question, and say, you said X, Y, and Z. What's up?
They got the Cheesecake Factory here. Look at that. You see that? You see that? That's the Cheesecake Factory. That's the Cheesecake Factory. Look at that. Where it's got cheesecakes and hamburgers and all kinds of foods.
Why does he have to use your hard-earned
That looks like a fancy.
the hard-earned money of Americans?
That looks like a fancy cheesecake factory. It's all fancy. It's fancy looking.
Special counsel investigation never did that. So that's, I think, one area of question we're going to have from this different than.
Oh, we got an IHOP here too. Look at that.
A month ago. And then there's a host of other things. I think he'll tell you that.
You see that? That's an IHOP right there.
His phone records. I mean, they got mine for 2.5 years. They got the Speaker of the House.
Oh, that one is empty.
He got Kevin McCarthy's phone records and told the phone company
Why is that IHOP empty? That IHOP is empty.
In line for the presidency, don't tell him. I mean, how do you do that? Because
It's open, but it's empty. Seems like nobody's got money to go out eat anywhere. There's a Popeyes here.
The Speaker of the House, for goodness sake.
The Speaker of the House is a flight risk, and Smith told that to the judge.
There's a McDonald's there. But people don't have money to eat. They have no money.
So that's the degree Jack Smith was willing to go to get the president, again, underscoring, I think, this key concept, which is this was all part of this weaponization, this lawfare, this attack by the Biden, Garland Justice Department to keep President Trump from being elected president. Now, the good news is the American people saw through it all. And of course, President Trump is, thank goodness.
There's a place called Baci. See that? There's Baci. Baci. It's like an Italian. It's an Italian restaurant cafe.
And they did it for a 2-month time period.
Baci. You heard of Baci? Hey, middle finger. Have you heard of Baci? There's a Baci for you. It's an Italian place. Baci Cafe. It's an Italian restaurant, but it cheapens its name. It cheapens its name because it doesn't go by Baci Restaurant. It goes by Baci Cafe. So it cheapens its Italian. Its Italian name.
When Speaker McCarthy was calling other members of Congress before votes and after votes, who he's talking to.
Because when you think of a cafe, you don't think of a full-blown restaurant. It's like a little cafe, like a piss cafe.
Special counsel and the Justice Department doing that, as you point out, to the guy was the top Republican in our government at the time, and they got that information for a 2-month time period. And then, of course, as we said, they made sure that the person who was having their privacy violated, they make sure it's from the know by getting a gag order from the judge, so that the AT&T carrier doesn't tell.
You after the hearing to find out what the heck happened when the American people just took it out. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for your take care.
Wow, that is going to be explosive. And now I understand what you're calling in. Kelly Loeffler, Secretary Kelly Loeffler.
Well, Wednesday night. And with us today is Kelly Loeffler, the head of the Small Business Administration in the United States
St.
of America. Brigid's
Deli and Cafe. See, that's more like it. That's what bocce sounds like. It sounds like a little deli and a cafe.
Right now,
But this deli and cafe is really tiny. This is a really tiny deli and cafe. It's so tiny. Oh, even out here they have these tiny delis. Even out here they have these tiny delis. Everybody wants to own a deli.
Protecting everybody in the free world. Tell us about small businesses and tell us about President Trump.
Well, John, you're absolutely right about Greenland. This is President Trump's visionary of what it takes to make something strong. But he knows that about small business too. He always says to me, Kelly, small business is big business. Look, he's a businessman. He's worked construction sites. He's seen that these small business contractors, electricians, plumbers, builders, welders, they make up America. They create 2 out of every 3 new jobs in this country. The president's economic agenda is leading small business back from the depths of the Biden administration that drove inflation up through the roof, interest rates up, crowded out working families and investment from small business. We now have, under President Trump, a record 36 million small businesses, and this president is helping deregulate to bring $18 trillion worth of factories and manufacturing in this country that the Biden administration and past administrations didn't care about. These are American workers that the president believes in.
I understand. And he's bringing in trillions and trillions and trillions. I lost track of which trillion he's up to.
Got it.
But there's a lag period for these companies to start up. And all these companies need probably small businesses to start up as support. Have you seen that yet?
Well, absolutely. We're starting to see it. I've walked factory floors from Alaska to Maine. There's some really critical parts of his agenda that do have a lag time. So you mentioned $18 trillion coming in. We got to have groundbreaking. We got to have the hiring. But we also have this Trump tax cuts that went through last
Hey, you're not really spamming anything. Let's see here.
That certainty for Main Street to be able to invest.
All messages. Yeah, you're not spamming.
And that's a lag time for this.
You're not spamming, middle finger. Middle finger, you're going to get fingered yourself.
Years was hollowed out in our industrial capacity, and now we're bringing that back. We lost thousands of factories, 5 million workers. And I talked to welders, they need more welders, they need more electricians. And so this is an adjustment that our country is going to make over the next year, and we're going to be much stronger for it.
And you see, do people in our country realize the amount of business to back? Do they realize it? Do they understand the immenseness?
No, I don't think so. We've been living in a time, particularly under the Biden administration, of managed decline. Now we have unbridled free enterprise growth. This is what made America. This is what built our country 250 years ago. And on this anniversary year of our nation's 250th celebration, we're building for the next 250. And we're going to lead in areas like defense, like AI, energy, pharmaceuticals. These are things we've never dreamed of. These are President Trump's moonshots, and they're going to work for this country.
Understood. And we had yesterday with us was Mike Rogers, who's running the Senate in Michigan, and he sees a lot of great things happening in Michigan, and automobile companies making a comeback, and it's just it looks great for the American people, and I predicted I was the first one last year to predict 50,000 on Dow Jones, and it looks like we almost got there, give or take to 1%. I predicted 60,000 on the Dow Jones for 2026. There's so much business coming in. I can't see how it doesn't.
Well, Wall Street's growth will be driven by Main Street because Main Street makes up 99% of all of our businesses. But this economic agenda is just getting started. This is year one where he's implemented much of what he promised on the campaign, promises made and promises kept, and even more than he promised. So this is what America First does. It creates growth and opportunity for everyone. And just having things that we can't take for granted. A secure border, state first street, getting the immense regulatory bureaucracy out of this country that is strangling job creators and driving up inflation. So we know that with the cost levels coming down, working families have more money in their pocketbooks. And then with the tax cuts, we're going to see at least $1,000 on average refunds to working families, which we've said is going to be very stimulative for 2026. And that's happening, the first It's a great honor. Thank you. Wow, what a powerful discussion. Such an important message for America. Great discussion, John. Let's take a break. And then we have the great Victoria Coates to give us a big reaction about Greenland.
And now, Joe Concha, sponsored by Goldline. To find out more about Goldline, visit goldline.com. Well, President Trump,
I actually paid less for gas. Over here it's $2.69. I paid $2.57.
This year, and the cash and paper assets most Americans rely on are losing purchasing power.
I paid $2.57.
So, how do you protect what you work a lifetime?
I got dirt cheap gas.
Helping Americans protect their wealth since 1996. Their own and publicly traded company, giving clients added transparency and reliability, free insurance delivery, and competitive pricing on a wide selection of gold and silver products. And right now, Goldline is offering an exclusive promotion for my listeners only. Call 1-800-757-GOLD and mention Joe to take advantage of it. Don't wait to say the next time. Also, if you reach that hours, just leave a voicemail and they'll return your call.
Yeah, I paid dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. Got cheapo.
You can visit goldline.com.
We got the cheapo or the cheapest.
Sponsored by Goldline. To find out more about Goldline, visit goldline.com. Trump took to the mic. He goes off on George W. Bush, the 43rd president, for allowing too many illegal immigrants into this country.
Undocumented workers come over the borders. And yes, the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic positions for more.
Wait a minute, that wasn't Donald Trump, that was President Obama. Back when he was in office, going off on Bush for allowing too many immigrants into the country. Obama was hailed for doing so. Seems like the criticism all depends on who's president. Listening.
Oh, yeah.
Entertaining and informative opinions from Joe Concha.
The children of our nation know little to nothing about 9/11, but the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is righting this wrong by helping teachers educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their nonfiction first-person accounts are told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series. The Institute offers full scripted curriculum units with backgrounds for teachers, a speaker bureau for classrooms, a mobile exhibit that's an interactive museum with 9/11 artifacts and SDNY guides. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
The views and opinions expressed by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC Radio, its management, or its sponsors.
Mr. Rosenberg, and somehow, some way, I survived 10 years on the radio here at WABC. And on January 27th, we're doing my 10th anniversary show, and trust me, this one's going to be legendary. Amazing guests, insane memories, huge moments, and because you survived listening to me all these years, plus in honor of this momentous occasion, everybody goes to Towers Falls, I survived listening to yours now at WABCRadio.com. This t-shirt is spectacular and definitely not a disaster. The I survived listening to Sir Rosenberg signed t-shirt. Get yours today at WABC Radio Store.
Go to WABC Radio Store.com and get the I Survived listening to
at WABCRadioStore.com. Listening to the #1 Nielsen rated. Captain Cosby, thank you for listening. 77 WABC. It's a common sense recap of
There's the Lamborghini dealer.
Captain Cosby.
There's the Lamborghini dealer. The Lamborghini dealer.
Coming out about Greenland, let's go right to former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. What do you think? Trump said we have a deal. We have a deal, Rita, and this is a good deal for the United States. We have sovereignty over the pockets of Greenland where those build our missile defense interceptors, so we own that land. They can't take us off of it. And then we also have rights to develop the natural resources of Greenland. Big win for Donald Trump, big win for the American people, huge win for NATO, and a big win for Greenland. Wow, so these are the components of it. That's really interesting. So talk about also how pivotal only Trump could make this happen. I mean, talk about the dramatic 24 hours, Victoria. Absolutely, and he handled this masterfully. He showed up in Davos, gave a speech, took military action off the table. We were never going to invade Greenland. It would have taken 15 minutes. It would have been embarrassing to us. It would have been so easy. So we didn't have to do that.
But, don't hoard stuff. It'll be a few days. I mean, if you got plenty of toilet paper, you don't need to get more. I'm just being quite serious. What are you going to do? Be holed up and have a toilet paper fight? I mean, there's only so much toilet paper you can use in 3 or 4 days. Just saying. Same with milk.
Oh, yeah.
Buy tons and tons of milk. Why? Buy a gallon or 2 and you're set. You're set. But people act like they're going to be gone for a month or 2. You're not going to be gone for a month or 2. Quite the contrary. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to talk about, and we shall. But I cannot get my mind off of Iran and the people in Iran, and I know, the media have become bored with the topic. They're moving on. I know leading politicians have become bored with the topic. They're moving on. The Democrats barely ever spoke about it in the first place. But the slaughter's going on. It's going on. As I speak. And the Kurds are being slaughtered. Horrific. Now, this guy that runs Syria is not a reformed Al-Qaeda terrorist. He's a terrorist.
Oh, yeah.
And the Islamo-Nazi who runs Iran is a terrorist. Now, the Islamo-Nazi who runs Iran, in my humble opinion, needs to be taken out. It's not enough to close down their economy. Their economy almost closed down as it is. It needs to be removed and sent to his maker so his maker can make, well, can send him to hell. Guy's 86 years old. He's got more blood on his hands than one can imagine. And there's more and more stories. You can read them on the internet. People who weren't even protesting, who are on the street, they're just being executed left and right because you have animals let loose now. ISIS is now loose in Syria. Thousands of them. Because of Erdogan and the Islamo-Nazi that runs Syria. I see things getting a lot worse in the Middle East, not better. I think Netanyahu and the Seventh Front War was enormously successful.
Herself before Trump fired her. The Solicitor General seems to be facing a lot of skeptical questioning about the idea that Trump's social media posts qualified as formal notice. And then Amy Coney Barrett said, why are you afraid of a hearing? It wouldn't be that big of a deal for Trump to give her a face-to-face meeting. Did you find a lot of skepticism on the justice and
we got some food
here?
Certainly, social media is one's own personal social media platform is not a conventional way of giving notice. It's a way of doing public politics. The Solicitor General actually, when he was fighting in Ukraine, suggested that the failure of Dr. Cook to tweet back at Trump should be held against her, should be held as an admission that what Trump said was true. If I was held responsible for every tweet I ignored, I would be in a very bad way.
Was there any argument that she had a hearing?
No, there was no hearing. There was a consent hearing. And the argument that the Solicitor General was forced to make is that she got the equivalent of a hearing in public in getting adverse social media posts from Trump and not responding to them. That's an argument that even some most conservative justices seem to have a great difficulty swallowing.
She also argues that Trump's reasons for firing her, this mortgage fraud allegations that she has denied, don't qualify as cause. What did you hear from the justices on that, the cause requirement?
Well, there was less clarity as to what they were thinking about that, at least my take on the argument. There are some statutes that provide considerable detail as to what is cause. This statute isn't really one of them. And some justices, particularly Justice Thomas, seem to be thinking that that difference between this and other laws means that anything that Trump says is cause is good enough. But there were other justices that seemed responsive to the notion that if the president can just make up any old cause he wants, that there is effectively no independence for the Federal Reserve. And I think that the extreme nature of the argument here that the Solicitor General had to make is going to bite them. The essence of Dr. Cook's argument is all this information was available before I was appointed and confirmed. Congress could have taken that into account in deciding whether to confirm me. They didn't. And the good cause requirement is supposed to relate to something one does on the job. I didn't have this job when I sought those mortgages that Trump is saying are improper.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't the veracity of the allegations isn't really before the court, is it? There was little discussion of it, although the Chief Justice talked about it a little bit, saying suppose it was an inadvertent mistake contradicted by other documents, and he also asked Cook's lawyer about the evidence that this was at most an inadvertent error. I mean, are the justices going to go there, do you think?
Well, the justices have several ways of dealing with this. If we assume, which after argument I think we can, that a majority of the court does not want a highly politicized Federal Reserve and needs to find some way of keeping Dr. Cook on the board, they've got several ways to go. They can say that the hearing was improper or the absence of a hearing and the notice was improper. They can say that something that happened prior to her taking the job doesn't count as good cause. They can say that the lower courts need to look into the merits of this. Or, and this is something Justice Barrett seemed interested in, they can simply say that President Trump is not suffering any legal injury from having Dr. Cook continue to serve, and therefore he simply doesn't qualify for a stay of the lower court's injunction.
Yeah, so I mean, the Supreme Court doesn't have to definitively resolve whether Trump can fire Cook. The issue is whether she can stay on the job while her challenge to the firing plays out in the lower courts. That's a high bar, isn't it? And it includes what you've referred to, irreparable harm. So, you know, where's the irreparable harm to Trump?
Well, we have gotten accustomed over the last year to the Supreme Court finding that any potential impairment of President Trump's powers is an irreparable injury. But if I ask you to go way back in time, 1 year, that was very extraordinary. And getting the Supreme Court to intervene in lower court cases was very difficult throughout most of this country's history. So perhaps the court will revert to that and say we shouldn't get involved until this gets fully aired out in the lower courts.
Also, you know, talk about pushing the boundaries. John Sauer, the Solicitor General, said that the courts shouldn't be allowed to review presidential firing decisions, even if there's a for-cause requirement. And the Chief Justice at one point said, why waste our time? If your position is we have no authority, why waste our time? And even Justice Alito expressed concern the administration had handled this in a cursory manner. Are the mortgage applications even in the record in this case? So, you know, it seemed like that was going too far for most of the justices, even the conservatives.
I think so, because the Solicitor General's position is that the courts can't look at this. And if the president can fire a Federal Reserve governor based on anything the president makes up, and no matter how absurd and unfounded it is, it can't be reversed, then effectively there is no for-cause requirement in the Federal Reserve statute, and these people all serve at the pleasure of the president. Many, many economists across the political spectrum believe that losing the independence of the Federal Reserve would, in the long term, reduce investment and increase inflation in this country.
Coming up next on the Bloomberg Law Show, I'll continue this conversation with Georgetown law professor David Super. We'll look at some of the different ways the court could rule in the case.
And a sort of warning from Justice Kavanaugh that what goes around comes around. Remember, you can always get the latest legal news by listening to our Bloomberg Law podcast. You can find them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and at Bloomberg.com/podcast/law. I'm June Grosso, and you're listening to Bloomberg.
Every weeknight, your favorite Bloomberg podcasts are on Bloomberg Radio.
We've been discussing the Federal Reserve's latest moves.
Immigration has become a hot topic in the U.S. Tune in weeknights at 7 for the best from Odd Lots, The Big Take, Everybody's Business, and all of our podcasts.
Why we're in an AI bubble and what the danger is.
The Podcast Spotlight, weeknights at 7.
We learn about a wide variety of subjects.
On Bloomberg 1130. Context changes everything.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Apple looking to fend off OpenAI's ChatGPT with a chatbot of its own. It's turning its Siri digital assistant into its first AI chatbot this year, now codenamed Campos, putting it in the iPhone, the iPad, and Mac's operating systems. It'll be able to analyze on-screen content, tap into your personal data, search the web, create content and new images, and more. After backpedaling on threats to take Greenland by force and slapping punishing new tariffs on imports from European nations opposed to his plans, stocks went on a wild ride today, but late in the session, President Trump claimed the U.S. and NATO now have the framework of a deal where the U.S. will be involved in Greenland's mineral rights. And that sent stocks soaring higher. At the close, all the major averages up nearly 1.25%. The Dow today up 589, the NASDAQ up 271, the S&P up 79. And gold, for the first time ever, topping $4,800 an ounce today. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
Max Shapkin here from Everybody's Business. This week on the podcast, we talk about the Fed.
Sherry Ellen, what has been your take on the increasing political pressure on the Federal Reserve?
This is a very dangerous thing. I think if interest rates were held at 1%, we would see inflation move up. President Trump has openly demanded interest rates of 1% or less. Red flags should be going off.
Listen to Everybody's Business from Bloomberg Business Week, wherever you get your podcasts.
Get the news you need to start your day in just 15 minutes. Wake up with Bloomberg Daybreak U.S. Edition. Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Bloomberg Weather is brought to you by Positive Coaching Alliance.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Still a rain shower possible through the evening hours. Otherwise, skies will start to clear out late tonight. Temperatures dropping to the lower to middle 30s. Partly sunny on Thursday, breezy at times, high 40 to 45. Partly cloudy, winds die down Thursday night, low in the middle to upper 20s. Partly sunny, breezy, cooler Friday, high in the lower to middle 30s. I'm Scott Kaplan with your 3-day forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Even the most disciplined investors face tough choices in volatile markets. The danger? Abandoning portfolios at the wrong time. While many strategies overlook human behavior, Principal Asset Management designs retirement portfolios that help investors stay invested. Our decades of expertise show that portfolio abandonment can derail years of planning and undermine the most sophisticated strategies when volatility strikes. Principal Asset Management, helping participants stay actively invested. Learn more at principalam.com.
Bloomberg Invest returns to New York on March 3rd and 4th, where the sharpest voices across banking, asset management, and private capital will discuss the forces reshaping finance. Powered by Bloomberg's global newsroom and data from the Bloomberg terminal, this flagship summit will cover everything from AI-driven disruption and central bank policy shifts to the emerging risks and opportunities in private credit. Join the conversation and register today at bloomberglive.com/invest.
So breaking news out of Washington, Wisconsin.
The president says he's got a framework for future deal on Greenland.
The Department of Justice subpoenaed the Fed.
And Bloomberg 1130 has the expert.
I'm joined by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Listen on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. And always on Bloomberg 1130. Context changes everything. This is Bloomberg Law with June Grosso from Bloomberg Radio.
The Supreme Court seems inclined to keep Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook in her job as her lawsuit against President Trump for firing her goes forward in the lower courts. The case against Cook stems from allegations she claimed 2 properties in Michigan and Georgia as primary residences in mortgage applications before she joined the Fed board. Cook has denied any wrongdoing, and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson pointed out the lack of evidence against her during oral arguments today.
When an allegation is made about someone's misconduct or whatnot, there's an opportunity for that person to present evidence, for the other side to present evidence, and even if the president was the final arbiter of this, one would expect that he would do so on the basis of evidence. So what I'm trying to understand is what is the evidence that has been presented and considered with respect to Ms. Cook's alleged misconduct.
Cook contends that even if the mortgage allegations were true, that isn't grounds for firing her for cause. She also argues that she should have been given notice and opportunity to contest the allegations. And several of the justices questioned the Solicitor General about why the administration was reluctant to give her that opportunity. Here are Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh.
Okay, so there's the Truth Social post, and then, burden on her to come back in 5 days. I understand that's your position. But, Justice Gorsuch posited sit down across the table in the Roosevelt room, where the president provides Ms. Cook, Governor Cook, with the evidence and waits to hear what her response is, gives her a chance to defend herself. I mean, it just wouldn't be that big a deal, it seems, if that's enough.
And what's the fear of more process here? In the sense that process protects you in the sense of helping you make better, more accurate decisions, and process helps you then convince people on the outside that you've made a considered, thorough, appropriate decision. What's the concern about more process?
I've been talking to Georgetown law professor David Super. David, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, right at the start of the argument, talked about amicus briefs from economists. She said, we have amicus briefs from economists who tell us that if Governor Cook is fired, that would trigger a recession. And then there was a discussion about the stock market, where she didn't want to talk about the stock market, but that was Sauer's answer to that. So I thought it was interesting that, she was referring to the out-of-court briefs from economists to show, the big picture concern.
Well, the elephant in the room is the copious evidence that non-independent central banks are very bad for countries' economies. You can look at Russia, you can look at Turkey, you can look at other countries that do not have independent central banks, and they have enormous economic trouble as a result. The justices know this, and even if philosophically they'd like to let Trump have his way, I think they don't want to be blamed for throwing the economy into a recession. And to her credit, Justice Barrett put that out on the table and gave the Solicitor General the opportunity to respond. He didn't do much with it, but she gave him a chance.
Was there an argument from the Solicitor General that resonated with any of the justices?
Well, the biggest advantage that the president has in this case is that the Supreme Court is pretty clearly going to strike down security of tenure requirements for the vast majority of executive branch officials. That's the Trump versus Slaughter case. An oral argument on that made pretty clear that the court is going to overrule Humphrey's executor and allow the president to fire at-will members of even very sensitive boards like the Federal Trade Commission. So the question here has always been, can the Supreme Court find a way of differentiating the Federal Reserve from the Federal Trade Commission and all those others? And that's, I think, what the Solicitor General was trying to go with here, is to suggest that the court should just treat this case like any other. Once you look at the specifics, the accusations against her fall apart in your hands. She was obviously given no hearing. And as several justices, including Justice Kavanaugh, pointed out, if you allow the president to make up anything and call it cause, then you have effectively ended the Fed's independence, and that makes them very nervous.
Justice Kavanaugh was also looking at the big picture when he talked about basically what goes around comes around.
let's talk about the real world downstream effects of this. Because if this were set as a precedent, it seems to me, just thinking big picture, what goes around comes around. All the current president's appointees would likely be removed for cause on January 20th, 2029, if there's a Democratic president, or January 20th, 2033. And then we're really at will removal. So what are we doing here?
Also brought out that
Yes, and if one believes, as I do, that President Trump's time horizon here is very short, and he wants what he thinks is good for him right now and doesn't care about the long-term impact, then that's of no concern. But the whole reason we have the Supreme Court with life tenure is so that they can look at the long term. They can look at the long-term impact on the law and the long-term impact on the economy. And that, I think, is where a court that is generally very sympathetic to President Trump's agenda starts getting extremely nervous.
would you say that along with the tariff decision, this is one of the most important decisions of the term as far as expanding presidential power?
Well, these two plus the Federal Trade Commission case, but I think everyone believes that case is going to expand presidential power radically. So people, I think, are not spending as much time thinking about that since they feel they already know how it's coming out.
Do you think the administration launching a criminal investigation into Fed Chair Powell damages its chances for winning this case? Because it tends to show that Trump is trying to reshape the Fed rather than just firing one person over unproven allegations.
Yes, I think that is certainly in the back of the justice's mind. Chairman Powell sitting there in the courtroom watching all of this. So obviously, if they needed any reminding, he was there in the flesh. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, particularly timed when they did it, and particularly against someone like Chairman Powell, who was appointed by President Trump and is pretty widely approved of across the political spectrum, particularly among his fellow Republicans. That strikes me as a remarkably ham-handed and tone-deaf thing to do. I wouldn't like the administration's chances in this case, even without the Powell investigation. But they basically gave the court no room to pretend that a ruling against Dr. Cook is compatible with an independent Fed.
There were quite a few points of laughter during the arguments while Lisa Cook's attorney, Paul Clement, was arguing. He's the former Solicitor General who is one of the premier Supreme Court litigators. This is his fifth argument since October before the justices. There seems to be something with Clement. I don't know how to explain it, sort of a camaraderie with the justices. It's more of a back and forth rather than skeptical questions. They give him a lot of leeway and they credit him a lot.
Yes, former Solicitor Clement is an extraordinarily skilled lawyer in general and Supreme Court practitioner in particular, but he's also extremely conservative and is not likely to take a conservative majority of the court for a ride to somewhere they don't want to go. So people have been hiring Solicitor General Clement, I think, to provide reassurance in cases that might otherwise feel uncomfortable to this very conservative supermajority.
Is there a possibility that even Justice Alito might rule against the Trump administration here?
He asked reasonable questions, but the tone struck me as being largely sympathetic with the president. And I think he is more committed than most to the unitary executive theory, which this would have to be an exception to.
When they write the opinion, do they have to explain away what they do with the FTC? And, where does it leave the unitary executive theory?
They've got various ways of hiding. The simplest is because this is a preliminary stage, is to simply say that President Trump hasn't qualified for a stay and decided entirely on procedural grounds. They also could say that they're not required to consider what standards are appropriate for removing Federal Reserve governors, because in this case the president claimed to comply with the law, so all they have to do is decide whether he did. They have a number of ways of hiding. My guess is that they will not be eager to explain how what they're doing here is consistent with what they're going to do in the FTC case, because let's face it, it isn't.
And we won't see that, I'm sure, in the opinion.
In this case, they know how they want to come out, which is against Trump and in favor of Federal Reserve independence. And they have a huge obstacle to doing that, which is their desire to end the independence of all the other boards. So the whole argument was basically the justices feeling around for a way that they could decide this case the way they want to without undermining what they're doing to the FTC. And I think at the end of the day, there were enough paths open to them where they could do that, and they will do that. And the Solicitor General had to hang his hat entirely on consistency with what they're doing in the FTC case, because the actual decision on Dr. Cook is essentially defensible.
The arguments went on nearly 2 hours, but they were really interesting on many different levels. And you can't always say that. Thanks so much, David. That's Professor David Super of Georgetown Law. Coming up next on the Bloomberg Law Show, the court's conservative justices appear likely to strike down Hawaii's restrictions on carrying guns. Remember, you can always get the latest legal news by listening to our Bloomberg Law podcast. And attorneys looking for legal research, whether you're an in-house counsel or in private practice, Bloomberg Law gives you the edge with the latest in AI-powered legal analytics, business insights, and workflow tools. With guidance from our experts, you'll grasp the latest trends in the legal industry, helping you achieve better results. For the practice of law, the business of law, the future of law, visit BloombergLaw.com. I'm June Grosso, and you're listening to Bloomberg.
This is New York's only 24-hour source for world markets and breaking business news. Bloomberg 1130. Coming up, the latest market-moving headlines from Bloomberg. First, an update from our partners at CBS News.
CBS News brief. President Trump, after delivering a lengthy speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and then meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte on Greenland, announces,
"We have a concept of a deal. I think it's going to be a very good deal for the United States, also for them. And we're going to work together on something having to do with the Arctic as a whole."
The House Oversight Committee votes to hold former first couple Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt in its Jeffrey Epstein probe. GOP Committee Chair James Comer.
The committee hereby favorably reports and adopts this report recommending that the House of Representatives find Hillary R. Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusal to comply with a subpoena.
Law enforcement in the Twin Cities area raises concerns about off-duty police officers being targeted by ICE. CBS's Nicole Skanga reports that
Commander Gregory Zavino here on the ground defended the men and women of ICE and federal law enforcement, saying that they are focused, that these are not random arrests.
CBS News Brief, I'm Jennifer Kuiper.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York, I'm Doug Krisner. Let's update top stories and market action. President Trump today saying that he will refrain from imposing tariffs on goods from those European nations opposed to his efforts to take over Greenland. Today on social media, Trump said he had a very productive meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The two formed a framework of a future deal on Greenland and, for that matter, the entire Arctic region. And based on this understanding, Trump said he will not be imposing the tariff scheduled to go into effect on February 1st. We get a little more from Bloomberg's Laura Davison.
So what we can anticipate here is that two sides are talking. They are at least making positive sounds at each other, but have they really spelled out what this looks like? Have the lawyers on both sides started looking at this? Absolutely not. They're still in that early stages. But this did give Trump enough space to back off from those tariffs, back off from the use of military force. We've seen that positive market reaction from this, and this is kind of how Trump likes to deal in this, and kind of being able to show that he gets something. And I think Mark Rutte and NATO have kind of figured out how to handle Trump in these situations.
That is Bloomberg's Laura Davison. Now, the New York Times is reporting these discussions on the framework included a compromise in which Denmark would give the U.S. sovereignty over small pockets of land for the use of construction of military bases. Now, Trump's remarks on Greenland did spark a rally in equities, small caps in particular. The big outperformance, the Russell 2000 today, which was up 2%. S&P 500 higher by nearly 1.2%. NASDAQ comp was up about 1.2% today, as was the Dow Industrial Average. Treasury yields down at the longer end of the curve, the 10-year losing about 4 basis points, last quoted in New York at 4.24%. So that's where the action will begin in the Tokyo session. Apple is planning to revamp Siri later this year by turning the digital assistant into an artificial intelligence chatbot. That's what we are told. Shares in Apple today picking up 0.4%. Right now in Sydney, ASX 200 higher by 0.7%. Global news, 24 hours a day, and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Doug Prisner. This is Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Surveillance, your home for insight on international relations. With guests like Henrietta Trey's of Beta Partners. Most important is what comes after Venezuela. We're hearing about Cuba, Colombia, Harvard Kennedy School professor Ricardo Hausman.
Venezuelans are unified politically in the new direction.
And Lindsay Newman of G0 Media. We are absolutely seeing the beginning of an emerging Trump doctrine. Bloomberg Surveillance. Weekday mornings at 7 on YouTube, the Bloomberg Business app, and always on Bloomberg 1130.
Hi, Jose Minchero here, Head of Portfolio Analytics Research at Bloomberg. Are you looking for a risk model that adapts quickly to today's volatile markets? One capable of providing accurate risk forecasts and efficient optimized portfolios, all while mitigating those pesky correlations between idiosyncratic and factor returns? If so, look no further than the Bloomberg MAC 3 risk model. Visit bloomberg.com/risk-modeling to learn more.
Get the latest Bloomberg headlines anytime with Bloomberg News Now. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Bloomberg Weather is brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
A disturbance moving out of the Great Lakes leads to increasing cloudiness through the rest of the day. We're 35. That disturbance may set off a snow shower or flurry tonight. Lows 30 to 35. Temperatures rising a bit overnight. Developing sun tomorrow, breezy 40 to 45. Partly cloudy 25 to 30 tomorrow night. Partly sunny and only 30 to 35 on Friday. I'm Rob Carolyn with your 3-day forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Bloomberg Radio, on demand, and in your podcast feed.
On the latest Balance of Power podcast, we spend time with Lael Brainerd, former chair of the National Economic Council in the Biden administration, former vice chair at the Fed, about President Trump's address to the World Economic Forum at Davos.
We know that inflation is still hovering close to 3%. We'll get the PCE inflation later, but inflation has not been defeated. Inflation close to 3% is not close to the Fed's target. There's more work to be done there.
Virtually no inflation, he says, and extraordinarily high economic growth. Over the past 3 months, he says core inflation has been 1.6%. He's projecting economic growth in the fourth quarter of almost 5.5%.